Okay, we're at the Rainbow Mountains again. Last week, what we did is we took the upper Crest Ridgeline. It's a ridgeline that spans the distance between the northern Rainbow Mountains. This is the northernmost portion of the Rainbow Mountains on the west side of Red Rock Canyon in Nevada. And the Rainbow Mountains stretches all the way to Highway 160 from this point at the Willow Spring trailhead. We're taking the Upper Crest Ridgeline. Last week we took the northern section of the Upper Crest Ridgeline to North Peak. This week we're going to go up Rocky Gap Road, which begins right here at the Willow Spring parking area in Red Rock Canyon, and we're going to head up to the top of Rocky Gap Road. There's a summit area where there's another access to the Upper Crest Ridge, and we're going to take that access and take the next section of the Upper Crest Ridge line, which I'm going to call the mid section, and we're going to see if we can get to the huge gap in the Upper Crest Ridge line that begins around Mount Wilson, a little after Mount Wilson, and that gap goes all the way to Hidden Peak. We're going to see if we can get to the gap today and just scope that area out. So here we go. When I got out of my car this morning, it was already under 35 degrees, and you can see some ice down here. We're just above the Willow Creek parking area. And so, yeah, at this altitude, we've got another couple thousand feet to ascend. But at this altitude, there's already ice. So we'll probably counter some snow. And when we do, I'll show you my snow strategy. I don't like to travel in snow anymore. I used to do a lot of snow adventures up in the Cascade Mountains in Oregon and Washington, but I've decided, hey, it's nice not to be in the snow. So I still have that strategy, and I'll demonstrate it in a bit. Okay, now we're passing the entrance sign for Rainbow Mountain Wilderness, and on the other side of the Rocky Gap Road here is the loop trail around White Rock Mountain. Awesome 5-mile loop trail. And this is the entrance to the La Madre Mountains Wilderness. So we're not taking that loop today. We're continuing up Rocky Gap Road. Here you see the Keystone Thrust, famous fault line in Nevada. And we're taking Rocky Gap Road around. We're going to take a left up here and circle around the backside of the Rainbow Mountains here, and then ascend to the Upper Crest Ridge line at the summit of Rocky Gap Road right before it begins to descend into Lovell Canyon. So here we go. And by the way, this is the second Saturday in November. So this may be the last day that I do the Rainbow Mountains till next spring when things warm up here. We'll do some lower level adventures between now and next spring. Here's that Jeep that I beat coming up Rocky Gap Road. And here is the summit of Rocky Gap Road. And this is where you take the trail to the Upper Crest Ridge line, which is up ahead there. And then take a right and head on over toward Rainbow Mountain and Mount Wilson. And south on the upper Crest Ridgeline. Okay, we have topped Rocky Gap Road and now are heading up to the upper Crest Ridgeline, which you can see up ahead. When we hit the ridgeline today, we're going to take a right and see how far we can get toward Mount Wilson and that gap beyond. No promises, but let's just find out. By the way, I just beat a Jeep up Rocky Gap Road. We both started at the bottom and we made it to the top at about the same time. Okay, we're continuing to ascend toward the ridgeline, and there's the ridgeline. Another neat perspective here. And you can see the ridgeline continues on, and boy, there's a lot of snow on it. And also, there's some narrow, razor thin ridge areas along here. I want to at least try and make it to this high point up ahead. When I'm on that high point, I should be looking down on the area of Mount Wilson from that high point. And just to continue the 360-degree view, you're looking down into Lovell Canyon. Rocky Gap Road descends into Lovell Canyon. And here's part of the Keystone Thrust. See the moon still visible. It's about 9:15, 9:30-ish. And at some point we'll travel the length of this ridge on the Keystone Thrust, but not today. Today we continue up to the Rainbow Mountains upper Crest Ridgeline, take a ride up here, and then we continue along the ridgeline. See how far we can get. And we'll see what kind of traction I can get on the snow. I'll show you a traction secret in a bit. Well, we've ascended between 2,000 and 2,300 feet. And now we are on the ridgeline. And here is a demarcation here. You head in this direction for Bridge Mountain. You head, and there's Bridge Mountain, by the way. Let's take a look at it. There you are. Bridge Mountain. Those guys in the Jeep are going to summit Bridge Mountain today. You head in this direction and you're heading toward North Peak. So here's the sign for the two. And you can see Rainbow Mountain and Mount Wilson right in the center there. So the question is, how does this ridgeline go? And I think that what we're looking at here is We want to get to that portion of the ridgeline. And then there's going to be a gap between that and the south portion of the ridgeline. So, should be interesting. Okay, catch my breath, and hopefully a lot of the steep uphill is done, although I think it's going to be up, down, and hanging onto the edge of ridges for a while. Let's just see what happens. Okay, we're going to do this section by section. And here you see the next high point we're reaching for. And I think that's still on the Bridge Mountain Trail from what I can see from here. Once I reach that high point, I take a right. Now, if you're going to Bridge Mountain, you're going to take a left. But I'm going to take a right and head along that ridge and see what the world looks like up there and what my next move would be. So, there's Mount Wilson. Rainbow Mountain. And then actually, here's a good view of Blue Diamond Mountain right down there. And yeah, for those going to Bridge Mountain, I think you top this area up here and take a left and head down this ridge. And you're just on the other side of the ridge. Let's take a look here. And once you get to the bottom of that ridge, you're in a red rock zone right down in this area. And you skirt that, and then you head over to Bridge Mountain. And boy, I'm not sure what the actual route is up Bridge Mountain. May try it at some point. Looks like it might require some rock climbing skill, but I think you go around the left side and there's a route that will summit the mountain from the left side. But I don't know. It could be the right side. So that we'll leave that for a future experience. And here you can see to the left of Bridge Mountain, there's the strip, and behind it, Frenchman Mountain and Sunrise Mountain, and then beyond that would be Lake Mead. So it gives you an idea where we are. And then here's just for a really nice view of what this Upper Crest Ridgeline looks like. Very, very beautiful. Junipers and pines. Okay, so let's head over to this high point, see how far we can get. When I hit the snow, I'll show you my top secret traction strategy. Oh, and by the way, over on this side, this direction is the Mount Charleston Wilderness. And here you're looking at the snow-covered peaks. On the left is Griffith Peak. On the right is Harris Mountain. And behind it, let's zoom in. There we go. Yeah, just to the right of Harris Mountain. Harris Mountain's on the left. To the right of that is a portion of Mummy Mountain. So there you have it. Charleston Wilderness as the first snows hit. And then to finish the picture, heading down there you have Lovell Canyon. And then back to our next target, which is the high point right ahead. Another view of Bridge Mountain. Now you can see more of it as we continue to descend and heading toward that next high point up over here. Here's a great shot. You can see North Peak. There's North Peak. And then trace it down. There's Damsel Peak. There are the Calico Hills in Red Rock Canyon. Las Vegas Valley, Bridge Mountain. Blue Diamond Mountain. Rainbow Mountain. And the tip of Mount Wilson. Awesome views. And we're continuing along this trail. This is the Bridge Mountain Trail. And it'll at least get me up to that high point. Okay, we've reached the limits of the Bridge Mountain Trail. Bridge Mountain Trail is going to begin descending here. And as you can see, the upper Crest Ridgeline is straight ahead. So here's where we leave the Bridge Mountain Trail and leave all trails that we know of and continue forward on the upper Crest Ridgeline. Give you a 360. There's not a whole lot you can see from this perspective, but there's the Mount Charleston Wilderness. And here's part of the the Bridge Mountain Trail that I just traversed. Here's that high point that we looked at a while ago. The Bridge Mountain Trail took us all the way to the high point, but now we're heading across the ridgeline. Actually, that worked out pretty nice because it looked like the ridgeline continues pretty gradual incline ahead. So this is great. Okay, it looks now and then like there's the very faintest trail pathway along this ridgeline. And, you know, looking down in this direction, there's the canyon for Rocky Gap Road. There is the Mount Charleston Wilderness, Griffith Peak, Harris Mountain. And over in this direction, yeah, you can barely see it through the trees, is North Peak. There it is. And then looking around this way, Bridge Mountain. And then the Las Vegas Valley. Let's zoom in a little bit. We're going to see Frenchman Mountain, to the left Sunrise Mountain, and behind and to the left will be the Muddy Mountains. And then straight ahead, the Las Vegas Strip. And Blue Diamond Mountain below. And you can actually see a portion of Lake Mead. Let's see. It's right beyond the strip and above. I can't see it because of the glare on the camera, but yeah, it's there. And then over this way, another perspective of Rainbow Mountain and Mount Wilson. And now you can see the ridge line, how it looks as if you could almost descend from this ridge line and ascend to the summit of Rainbow Mountain. And the same thing with Mount Wilson. Looks like there's a little pathway there, or a little approach ridge for each of them to the right. There's Mount Wilson, and then here's Rainbow Mountain. So we'll try those out some point in the future, but for now, yeah, continuing along the ridge line here, and then we need to begin navigating some of this very rough area. So lots of ups and downs there. And then over in the distance, I could almost say maybe that is Mountain Springs Summit. I don't know. Have to explore this broken up wilderness area here along the ridge line too, before we really know what everything is. But there's an upper view just to give you an idea. And then, of course, looking straight ahead here is Potosi Mountain. That's Potosi Mountain on the other side of Highway 160. So, wow. There's a lot you can see from this perspective. Okay. And wow, look at how broken up that area is. A lot of cliff action along there. This would be a return in the spring thing, because these rocks, if there's even a light dusting of snow on them, are like an ice skating rink. You just don't want to do it. Okay, so onward. Let's see if we can trace a pathway along this ridge line. And the next stretch is to this high point right ahead. And we'll see how the world looks from that point, and what the pathway forward might look like. And then over here toward the Mount Charleston Wilderness, you can see Griffith Peak, and to the left of Griffith Peak is Sexton Ridge, the approach ridge. There's a page on Las Vegas Area Trails for that. We've gotten pretty close to the top of Griffith Peak. In fact, we've come down from the top of Griffith Peak and met somewhere near the top. So I've traversed that entire ridge, but not at one time. And then over here is Harris Mountain, and behind it, Mummy Mountain. And you can see Fletcher Peak also. Harris Mountain snow-capped, Mummy Mountain cliffs to the right, and Fletcher Peak, I believe, is right in the middle there. And then in the foreground, maybe, not sure, in the foreground, right in the center, maybe Angel Peak. Just not sure. And by the way, here's my reference point for the return trip, which is North Peak. And curiously, behind North Peak and to the right may be La Madre Mountain at the high point up ahead, and El Padre Mountain is a little lower. I just like to know where everything is because that's the only way I get around in the wilderness. So far, there's a super faint pathway along this ridge top, and sometimes all you can see is an opening through the bushes, the brush, and you see that opening continues beyond. So yeah, it goes through and then it continues. So that's a helpful thing. And I do believe that people have taken this ridgeline all the way from Potosi Mountain to the Rocky Gap Road, Willow Spring area. So maybe we'll see where it continues and navigates this seemingly broken up stretch ahead. This is turning out to be one cool little trail. Here's a cairn. So definitely I'm not the first to take this, and some people watching this may be saying, how is it that you're just now discovering it? We've been on it 1,000 times. So yeah, continuing on. This is pretty cool. Upper Crest Ridgeline Trail. Another sign, footprints. So someone recently passed through this ridgeline trail, and by the looks of these footprints, it could have been earlier this morning. We don't know, but I don't see the sun having smoothed out any of the little ridges in the footprints. So yeah, this is a cool trail. Rainbow Mountains Upper Crest Ridgeline. Let's see how far it goes. Okay, we've reached another high point on this upper ridgeline, and you can see the trail that we've been taking along this high point, and there is North Peak. Awesome point of reference. And Damsel Peak. And here's another perspective of Bridge Mountain. And if you've ever climbed Bridge Mountain, perhaps you can see your route somewhere there. I have not, but I'm sure that there are some people who are seeing their route. And then over on this side is Rainbow Mountain, and behind it Mount Wilson, and then the broken up ridgeline ahead should be interesting. And at Mount Wilson there's a huge gap. Here there is, yeah, it's kind of a gap right here because there's a lot of descent and reascent. My next goal is straight ahead where you see the snow. More of the Mount Charleston Wilderness. And then continuing on, that may be the Wilson Ridge ahead. And circling around, you can see the Keystone Thrust Ridgeline, El Bastardo, La Madre Mountain, Burnt Peak, and El Padre Mountain. Let's take a closer look. There's El Padre. And right in the center, Burnt Peak. And behind Burnt Peak, that may be La Madre Mountain right there. We don't know for sure. But I'd say it's an awful good candidate. And then back to Damsel Peak. Okay, I took a closer look. And what you see here, there is La Madre Mountain. To the left would be the Devil's Slide area, at least this perspective. And there you see the notch between La Madre and El Padre. And then ascending to El Padre. And then over to Burnt Peak. And you can see that circuit on LasVegasAreaTrails.com, and just look in the La Madre Mountain Wilderness for that circuit that includes La Madre, El Padre, and Burnt Peak. Okay, we're at that next high point. Let's explore a little bit up here, because the big question is how to get to, from this point to where the ridge, I think, continues. Looks like we got a major plunge, but not too bad. I don't see anything that is going vertical on us. So I think that the ridgeline is going to continue up ahead and just wind around and over and along there. You can see if you trace it, you're looking at something that looks fairly gradual, but not certain. So let's head down a little ways and just see what we're going to encounter down here. And in the meantime, Rainbow Mountain and Mount Wilson. Potosi Mountain, we know that is the target that we shoot for, which makes me believe that maybe the ridgeline is going to continue on this higher level up here. I don't know. there are a few different choices. But as you can see, we're getting close to the huge gap. Okay, it seems clear that for the next stretch I need to angle over to this gradual ridge that's going to take me downward, and I end up down in this area ahead. And now I can see a possibility where I could cross over and continue up the other side. So, okay, let's just head down. Let's see how far we get. Okay, note to self. I should have stayed to the, I guess it's east of this high point. I should have been over in this direction because I ended up in the weeds over there. There is a way to circumvent it, but you can see that that goes straight down. Where, on the other hand, here's a gradual ridge, although there is a pretty steep cliff drop-off right here. And Rainbow Mountain and Mount Wilson, and maybe that pointy peak there is Mountain Spring Peak. We don't know. Anyway, yeah, so I'm going to head down this ridge straight ahead instead of being over here. And what that means is that if I had, instead of heading over in that direction there, instead I had circled around this way and come down, I would have saved probably 5-10 minutes, but hey, we're exploring today. Okay, on the edge of the abyss right here, but on a fairly gradual decline. Okay, strategy time. As you are closing in on Rainbow Mountain and Mount Wilson, and there they are, Rainbow Mountain on the left, Mount Wilson on the right. As you're closing in on those and you're along this sheer cliff, the strategy seems to be to stay as close to the edge as you can while giving yourself a healthy distance between you and the edge of the cliff. So yeah, and then it continues on down in a gradual way. So let's see if that is truly what happens here. It still feels like I'm on a trail. And every now and then I see a footprint in the snow, or I see just a sign that people have passed, but not many. And if you're up here, wow, don't expect to see anyone. So be prepared for that. And there's that last high point I was on, and you can see how you take a, the right side. And that's a more gradual descent, and then when you reach a certain point, you head straight in this direction. Don't go down to the left. Believe me, I started doing that, and yeah, nothing good could come of that path. So here we are on the edge of the abyss still, and continuing along what looks like a little trail. Okay, this is what I call scoping out a route and trusting the route. Every time I come to what looked from further back like a drop-off, there is a way. And now you can see the next ridge. We don't know what happens beyond this ridge. Looks like another potential drop-off, but this upper Crest Ridgeline only gives you the next, 1/8 mile at a time, and leaves you guessing if you're going to reach the edge of something that's going to stop you. And what do you know? A little cairn here in the middle of nowhere. Just a lonely cairn. And it's saying go down this way, but hey, this is about the only way you can go at this point. Maybe it's giving an idea how to get back. Okay, you can tell we're in rock climber land. Here's a little, looks like an anchor here. But what do I know? I'm not a rock climber. And the key still seems to be hug the edge of the abyss to your left and continue on. And it looks like now we're at the end of that last stretch. And as I look ahead, either we're descending down there and up this saddle, which looks like a good way to go, actually, or we're continuing straight, but then we've got quite the steep incline. So my guess is going to be the way to go is to head down here to where this next section begins a gradual incline, and hopefully it's not as steep on the other side as it is on this side. But yeah, there's been an abyss on the to my left the whole way, and there's the abyss continuing. So yeah, you can see a lot of different connections around here to high points. Whoops, I forgot to put on the sound muffler, wind muffler, so I hope this came through. There's that last high point up through the trees that we were on when we descended this gradual incline. I know I take these adventures painfully brief, short stretches at a time as I'm getting used to a new area. Next time I'll be able to come to this point a lot more quickly. And yeah, looks like, no, I'm gonna come up this way. Yeah, and I'll be able to push things further. I think what I'm gonna do is, I'm getting close to the end of this adventure here, and I'm thinking that I'm going to return in the spring when the days are just a little bit longer and it's a little warmer. This is rather cold. But yeah, you can continue on just weaving around, and the goal here is to reach a point that you can ascend this next ridge and then head up the ridge, take a left, head up that ridge, and then you can see a little saddle to the next ridge. And as I've said, you can only see one section at a time here, 1/8 of a mile maybe, and it looks like the whole world ends on the horizon. But when you get to the horizon, the next section opens up. So Rainbow Mountains, Upper Crest Ridgeline. I may go a little further, or I may turn around. We'll see. You'll know in the next video. Yeah, this is looking like a natural turnaround point for today. And it is easy and possible to ascend to the opposite side of these cliffs if you take the gradual ridge that meets where I am, just down below. Or you could just head straight up this, and if there's no snow, it'd be a lot easier. But anyway, yeah, here is Rainbow Mountain, and another unique perspective of Bridge Mountain. Okay, we're turning around, and we shall return and push this route along the mid-ridge. A little further next time. Rainbow Mountain on the left, Mount Wilson on the right, and if you look carefully, you can see that each appears to have an approach ridge that comes, spurs off from this upper Crest Ridgeline. So yeah, those we will attempt at some point, summiting Rainbow Mountain and Mount Wilson from above.